In this video, we're going to go over the next stage in our in-hand work. And this is starting to work on getting your bends and your counter bends. And what I mean by that is the bend is bending your horse more than what the line of travel you're on is. So if you're on a straight line, you're getting the horse to go straight ahead and you're flexing the horse's head and neck to either to the left or to the right. If you're on a circle, you're doing the same thing. The line of travel is the circle, but if you need a band or a counter band, is you're taking them more than the circle or to the outside of the circle. Band is to the inside, whether it's the arena or the circle. Counter band is to the outside. And so we start off, we've already got our forward and our relaxation going. So now if you're still having trouble getting the horse to relax its neck and come down, the bends and counter bends are a great place to start adding in. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm heading down the rail, and it's usually easier to start on the rail with this, and I'm just going to flex her head and neck to the inside. And I'm not looking for her to rotate her head. Her nose to her pole needs to stay straight up and down, not where her nose leads and the pole's back. So I'm asking for her to flex to the inside. Yes, and there's a soft licking and chewing there. And she kind of drops into it. That's nice. And then I could add a circle here and just allow her to kind of stretch down and lengthen that back out. And again, this is really good for a high-headed horse or a contracted tight horse, a nervous horse. It's all really good. And then as I get back to the rail, I'm going to pick her back up and ask for the bend again, just softly. And so I'm doing that by putting a little feel with my inside hand, the hand that's on the bit. I'm just kind of lifting it quietly and saying, hey, can you follow this? And it doesn't have to be much. If you get 5 degrees of bend, that's enough starting off. Yeah, eventually you'll be able to do more, but right now that's fine. How much can your horse handle? Now, if you feel like your horse is really leaning on your shoulder, you might have to do a little bit more of a lift with your bit hand. But it's about getting them to bend through the body. And then as she gives it to me, then I can allow her to kind of stretch and lengthen out again. And there she's kind of stalling out. Keep her going. Yeah. And again, I'm going to bend her. So there she's a little high. She's kind of bouncing up and down. So I keep helping her find that relaxed place with a nice long neck. There, good. Now I'm going to ask her to straighten out. So now we're going to do a little bit of a counter bend. If the bend was a challenge, then spend more time doing your bends on both sides. But if it's going pretty good like with her, now the counter bend is I'm going to draw down with my outside rein and just ask her to tip her hand to the outside slightly, her head to the outside slightly. Good. And then once she finds it, then I'm going to let her straighten back up. And I can let her just kind of stretch and lengthen out. Good, and then I can pick her back up again. And tip her head to the outside slightly, and there's a nice counter bend. And she's real soft there. So then I'm going to say, hey, and remember our halts. So it's not like this is a real complicated thing, but it's not necessarily an easy thing with the green horses. So if you're having trouble with the bends, I wouldn't work on the counter bends yet. Go to the other side first and get your bends both directions before you start asking for a counter bend. So like here, I'm heading down the rail and I'm just going to ask her to tip her nose in, picking up a little bit with my bit hand and asking her to rotate, flex that head and neck, but keeping it soft, keeping her shoulders from falling in. And I do that with my knuckles that are on my shoulder, or on her shoulder here. So if she were to, as I tip her head and neck in, if she were to fall in, I'm just going to press in here a little bit. Now if you're pressing in there a little bit and they're just like, yeah, I don't really care, then you're going to go back to your circles. And at the walk, you can actually do a pretty small circle. So let's say she's falling in on the circle and you start pressing in and you're asking her to stay up over her shoulders. She wants to lean in and she's just like, nope, I'm not doing it. And they're usually leaning in because they're not flexing either in the head and neck or in the rib cage. So what you'll do is just start asking for a really small circle and get that bend to happen on this small circle. So I'm going to just say, hey, can you bend that head and neck on the line of travel, but it's going to be really small until they start to flex and come through their body. And then once I have that, they'll start to come off your shoulder a bit. Or sorry, they'll start coming off of your hand, picking up their shoulder a bit. So that's pretty nice there. And I can go straight ahead. I could let her lengthen, or I could tip her head slightly to the outside. Now where you're positioned changes slightly. So when I do a little bit of tip to the outside, I'm going to be a little bit more in front of her. And when I tip her nose, when I do a bend to the inside, I'm going to move back a little bit, being in line with her front feet. So it just depends on what I'm asking for. And there, that was pretty nice. So now I can let her lengthen out and down. So that's how you can start to play with your bands and your counter bands as you're going down the rail. In the next video, we'll show you how you're going to start to play with that on some circles and keep progressing on, making the in-hand work, developing it more and more till eventually we're doing some half passes and, you know, some haunches in, that sort of thing with this in-hand work. And go out, play with it, but don't drill it. Don't make it like you're just gonna go and go and go with this. It might be 10-15 minutes, get some change with them, and then leave it alone for the day. It's a great place to start. You know, that's your warm-up work before you get on, and you throw your saddle on, come do your 10-15 minutes of in-hand work, and then go on and get on and go for a ride. So go out there, play with it. Love to hear how it's working for you, and we'll see you in the next video.